They expected a controlled conversation, carefully framed and tightly edited. Another polished chapter in Prince Harry's media journey. Instead, the BBC control room watched in stunned silence as one of Britain's toughest interviewers gradually stripped away the safety net. By the time the studio lights dimmed, the heir who left the palace was also walking out of the studio, escorted off a program that had decided it had reached its limit. The Newsnight studio didn't look like a battlefield, but it felt like one. Soft golden lamps framed the room, their glow catching on the edges of two red velvet chairs facing each other. Between them, a small round table held a bottle of water and two tall untouched glasses. Behind it all hung a massive oil painting of a shadowed London skyline, as if the city itself was observing. On the left chair sat Emily Maitlis, poised, shoulders straight, legs neatly crossed. A notepad rested on her lap, a pen clipped to the corner. She looked calm, almost conversational, but the line of her jaw betrayed a different story. This wasn't a chat show. This was Newsnight. Opposite her, Prince Harry shifted in his seat, his tailored suit stretching across his shoulders. His ginger beard was neatly trimmed, hair slightly thinner than the tabloids liked to claim, and his expression already carried a hint of irritation, as if he had come ready to be misunderstood. "Good evening," Emily began, her voice low, measured. Tonight, a rare extended interview with the Duke of Sussex, a man who stepped away from the institution that shaped his life, yet whose story still dominates our headlines. She fixed her gaze on him. "Prince Harry, thank you for joining us." Harry offered a tight smile. "Well, I'm generous with my time, Emily, especially when it comes to setting the record straight." There was a subtle shift in the control room. Heads leaned closer to monitors, a producer scribbled a note. "First line, first edge." Emily didn't flinch. "Let's talk about that record," she said. "You've given us documentaries, a memoir, multiple interviews. You say you're finally telling your truth. Yet every time you speak, there seems to be a fresh version of events. Do you understand why some people feel fatigued?" Harry's jaw tightened. "Fatigued?" he repeated, letting out a short laugh. "People were happy enough to read lies about me for 25 years. A few hours of hearing the truth seems like the least they can handle." "But why?" Emily pressed gently. "Does the truth need constant revisiting? You've said you wanted privacy. You've accused the British press of intrusion. Yet here you are again, in front of cameras, talking about the very thing you say traumatized you." Harry shifted, leaning back slightly, hands clasped in his lap with controlled patience. "Privacy," he said, "is about choice. I choose when and how to speak. That's different from being hunted, which is what happened to me, my wife, and my mother." Emily nodded. "You've mentioned your mother, Princess Diana, often," she said. "You've compared Meghan's experiences to hers. Some critics say you're weaponizing your trauma, using it as a shield against criticism. What do you say to that?" His eyes hardened. "I'd say those critics are part of the problem," he snapped. "Of course they're uncomfortable when I speak about it because it exposes the system they serve. And I," Emily replied evenly, "am one of those people who work in the media. Let me be clear. Do you believe I'm personally complicit?" Harry gave a small, almost dismissive smile. "You're part of the machine, Emily, whether you like it or not." The silence that followed was heavy. In the gallery, someone muttered, "There it is." Emily took a slow breath. "I ask because broken bar," she continued. "You've spoken about empathy, kindness, mental health. Yet the language you use about journalists is very broad. You understand that, don't you?" "I understand that. I'm done playing nice," he said. "For years, we tried the polite route. We said nothing. We absorbed it. It cost us more than you can imagine. You don't get to lecture me on tone." There it was again, that defensive spike, that rehearsed anger. Emily watched him for a beat, then glanced down at her notes. "Let's move to something concrete," she said. "Security. You've taken legal action over their removal of police protection when in the UK. Yet you've criticized this country and its institutions publicly. Do you see tension in asking British taxpayers to fund security for someone who stepped away from royal duties? Harry's lips curled into a humorless smile. I risked my life for this country in Afghanistan, he said sharply. I flew missions you can't talk about on television. The idea that my family's safety is now a budget line to debate is insulting. No one, Emily replied, is questioning your military service. What I'm asking is whether you recognize the optics. You've moved to California, you've signed multi-million-dollar media deals, and yet you want special protection when you return. Ordinary veterans might say they don't get that option. They're not being hunted by international paparazzi, Harry shot back. They're not linked to one of the most famous families on the planet. Comparing us is misleading, Emily. And you know it. Her eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger but focus. All right, let's talk about that family. The words seemed to change the air between them. You've accused unnamed royal family members of serious failings, she said. You've described private tensions, deeply personal moments. At any point, did you consider that you're doing to them in your books and programs what you say the press did to you? Harry snorted softly. No. Because there's a difference between exploitation and accountability. Explain the difference, Emily said quickly. Exploitation, he replied, leaning forward, is taking parts of someone's life without consent, twisting them, selling them. Accountability is telling the truth about people who abused the system they were born into. If my family had behaved differently, there'd be nothing to discuss. Your brother? She asked quietly. Your father? Are they abusers in your eyes? That's emotionally manipulative, he said sharply. You're chasing a headline. I'm trying, Emily answered steadily, to understand how far your anger goes. You've described physical altercations, shouting matches, icy silences. Some viewers may wonder, have you perhaps become the thing you say you're fighting? Someone who can't let go? Something flickered across his face here, annoyance, maybe even doubt, but it vanished almost immediately, replaced by a controlled stare. Let me be clear, he said, enunciating each word. I didn't start this war, but I won't apologize for refusing to lose it quietly. Emily let the line hang, then scribbled on her notepad. You've used the word war twice already. A war with the press, war with the institution, war for your narrative. Do you worry that ordinary people struggling with bills, NHS care, or cost of living might see this as a theatrical, privileged feud? Harry exhaled sharply. That's the classic deflection, he said. Whenever someone in a marginalized position speaks up, we're told there are real problems. As if multiple issues can't exist at once. Do you, Emily asked softly, see yourself as marginalized? He hesitated, then lifted his chin. In some ways, yes. In my family, certainly. I married someone the institution wasn't ready for. We were punished for it. And yet, she said, you are still a prince. You live in a multi-million-dollar home in Montecito. You still monetize your title whether you admit it or not. Is that marginalization or rebranding? For the first time, color rose visibly in Harry's cheeks. This is exactly what I expected, he said coldly. I come here to discuss projects, mental health work, veteran support, and you play semantics with my life. If that makes good TV, congratulations. We will talk about your projects, Emily said evenly. But people can read those in press releases. What they rarely see is you under real scrutiny. So yes, this is television. It's also journalism. His eyes narrowed. You sound proud of that. I am, she replied. A silence followed. On the monitors, they looked like chess pieces, one relentless, one agitated. Emily glanced at her notes. Then up. Let's end this section with something simple. If your father were watching tonight and switched off midway, what line do you most hope he heard? Harry stared, unprepared. Seconds ticked by. That I won't be silent just to make him comfortable, he finally said. Emily nodded. And what line do you fear he hears? She added quietly. A tiny muscle twitched in his jaw. He didn't answer. More from Prince Harry, Emily said, turning to the camera. After the break, We'll ask whether his new life in California is really as free as he claims, and what happens when a man who left the palace discovers public opinion can leave him too. The lights dimmed. In the control room, the director exhaled. That's only the first block. The studio lights surged back. Harry sat upright, shoulders squared. Emily met his gaze without blinking. The war, if not declared, had entered open combat. Before the break, Emily began calmly. We spoke about truth, narrative, and consequence. I want to discuss the part of your life you protect most fiercely, your children. Harry stiffened. They are off limits, he said. Emily nodded. I'm not asking for names or images. I'm asking about choices. You left Britain to protect them from intrusion, yet now they live in a country with an aggressive celebrity economy. How do you reconcile that? We control access, Harry said sharply. Do you? Emily asked softly. Their lives are central to a global brand, streaming documentaries, books, staged photos. Hidden yet omnipresent. They are not products, he snapped. No, Emily said. But they are part of a story that generates revenue. You imply exploitation. That's disgraceful. I imply contradiction, she replied evenly. You accuse the palace of using you as an asset, yet you've built a structure where your identity as a royal exile is the primary commodity. Your children are affected. Silence. Emily continued. You've said you fear history repeating itself, that your children might resent the life they inherited. Harry swallowed. Every parent fears that. Then plainly, she said, will they grow up seeing Britain as home or the villain in your story? They will know the truth. Whose truth? Theirs, he said hesitantly. Emily leaned back. Your son is an American citizen, educated outside the British system and royal tradition. Might he never fully understand the institution you oppose? Good, Harry said. That's the point. But if he never understands it, she countered, how can he judge independently? He doesn't need to. He needs freedom from it. Emily's tone sharpened. Freedom from context can also mean freedom from comprehension. He leaned back, frustrated. You frame everything as contradictory. Life after trauma is contradictory. You speak in absolutes, she said. Villains and victims, liberation and captivity. There's rarely a middle ground. Because the middle ground failed us, Harry shot back. It's how silence thrives, or how reconciliation survives, Emily whispered. Do you want reconciliation? She asked quietly. Harry's jaw tightened. He looked away. I want accountability. For whom? Emily pressed. For everyone who enabled it, even if it costs your children a relationship with grandparents or homeland. They'll survive without castles, he said coldly. But will they survive without roots? Emily pushed. Irritation broke fully through his restraint. You keep romanticizing the institution that almost destroyed my marriage. And you, she replied, simplify a system of thousands into a single villain because complexity doesn't fit your narrative. That's insulting, he snapped. It's probing, she said. A faint shift behind the camera. Technicians exchanged glances. This was no longer just a difficult interview. It was a showdown. You speak constantly about generational trauma, cycles of pain. Do you ever worry you may create a new one, just elsewhere? Harry laughed bitterly. So now I'm the abuser. I didn't say that. You imply it. I'm questioning power. Parental, narrative, financial are the same powers you accuse others of misusing. He pointed slightly. You speak as though neutrality exists in grief. It doesn't. Nor immunity. The tension was electric. Harry's breathing grew sharper. Final question about your children, Emily said steadily. When they can read your book, will they also access versions that contradict yours? They'll see the lies for what they are. And if not? She asked. Then I've failed them. He admitted quietly. Failure is not leaving the institution. Failure is denying your children the full complexity of their inheritance, she said. Harry looked unsettled. The composure that shielded him earlier was thinning. I will not let the monarchy define my children, he said firmly. No, Emily replied, but you are defining it for them. He opened his mouth to argue. Let's move to your future, she continued. My future? He narrowed his eyes. I've cut ties with my country in all but sentiment. Commercial commitments, political positioning, global audience. Will you remain a campaigning figure, or ever withdraw. I don't retreat, he said. Even when conflict becomes identity, I am not defined by conflict. Almost everything you've said has been framed against an enemy, she noted. Because the enemy hasn't disappeared, he replied. Emily leaned forward. What happens when the enemy finally disappears? The palace grows quiet. Public interest fades. Harry frowned, silent. Who is Prince Harry? She asked softly. When no institution is left to resist. He shifted. Silence stretched. Then abruptly, you're trying to dismantle me. I'm asking who you are without the war, she replied. His voice hardened. This interview has turned hostile. No, it's turned honest, Emily said. Authority shifted. Harry reacted to the narrative, not steering it. And when we return, Emily said to the camera, we will explore whether Prince Harry is still fighting the monarchy or the consequences of leaving it. The lights dimmed for the last time. Harry sat rigidly as the break began. The producer whispered, he's unraveling. The studio returned in dead silence. No soft music, no easing back. Emily didn't smile. Prince Harry, she said calmly, you've discussed truth, accountability, family, trauma, power. Every challenging question, you've treated as a personal attack. Harry folded his arms. Exactly what it had been. No, Emily replied steadily. This has been an interview you agreed to. You've twisted every answer, he shot back. Tried to trap me in contradictions that exist only in your framing. The contradictions exist in your words, not mine, she said. Harry shook his head in disbelief. This is why I left. This tone, this manipulation dressed as journalism. Emily leaned forward slightly. Let me be clear. Journalism isn't to protect you from discomfort. It tests power. Tonight, you resisted every test. His voice rose. Because your test is biased. And your resistance, she said calmly, is avoidance. The tension snapped. Harry pushed back. I will not sit here to be dismantled for ratings. Emily's expression hardened. This program isn't a stage for grievance or theatre. You were invited for dialogue, not lectures or contempt. Harry stood abruptly. Then I'm done. Emily didn't raise her voice. Prince Harry, if you cannot engage without hostility, this interview cannot continue. Are you asking me to leave? He demanded. Yes, Emily said without hesitation. I am. A collective gasp rippled. This program will not proceed in this tone. You may leave. Harry looked stunned, then furious. He removed his microphone sharply, placed it on the table, and said coldly, history will judge this. Emily met his eyes. So will tonight. He turned and walked out. The door closed softly, but the impact echoed. Emily faced the camera, composed. Truth does not require agreement. It requires courage. The screen faded to black. If this interview shocked you, you're not alone. Do you think Emily was right to end it, or did Harry deserve more space? Like the video if you reached the end, subscribe for more confrontations, and comment below. The next story is even more intense.